Australia finds out they're accidentally funding terrorism in the Middle East and responds accordingly. What's that about? Find out today. My name is Jared White. This is J News. So, a country down under, Australia, is getting in a little bit of trouble in the news because they've decided to pull money from the World Bank. Why? Well, we're going to find out today. I actually have something new for you guys. We are going to do an interview with an expert on the topic. And we are going to go into our other studio so we're able to talk to him about Australia, Hamas, Gaza, the World Bank, and what's going on with this situation. It's going to be very exciting. Hope you like it. Without further ado, let's introduce our new guest. So, I got my esteemed guest with me today. It's Mr. Josh Hanau. He is an intern at the Jerusalem Institute of Justice, and he is going to talk to us about, today, what is going on with Australia. They've decided to pull money away from the World Bank because it has been used for terrorist activity by Hamas. So, Mr. Hanau, can you explain to us what's happening with Australia right now and the decisions they've made recently?
So Australia has recently decided to suspend their funding to the Palestinian Authority's World Bank Trust Fund.
Okay, what is the World Bank Trust Fund? Can you tell our viewers about that for people who don't know? I don't know, so let's find out.
Gladly. So the World Bank is an intergovernmental organization, and essentially their function is to act as a sort of means of commerce for countries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the World Bank currently has a trust fund where multiple countries, up until recently Australia included, would essentially allocate money that would be given to the Palestinian Authority in segments with the goal of helping to boost their economy. And in doing so, it allows the Palestinian Authority to essentially build up their own economy as opposed to having just aid given to them.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a perfectly good way of giving money to foreign countries for humanitarian aid. Why is it Australia pulled out of such, on a face value, a perfect system?
So normally, the Palestinian Authority is required to send a report, basically, on where this trust fund money was going. That's how the World Bank sort of does their monetarization of essentially their funding.
Right.
However, the Australian foreign minister came under suspicion that the money was not being allocated to where it was supposed to be going.
Where was it supposed to be going?
Well, the idea was was for Palestinian businesses and basically general sort of economic boosts would be functioning as normal, so that which is exactly how the money was supposed to be spent. However, it came to light that turns out some of this money was actually going towards the salaries, towards families of terrorists.
Wait, what? The UN is supporting terrorism? How can you say that, Mr. Hanau?
Well, there seems to be some confusion that I should probably clear up.
Please do.
The World Bank and the UN are not the same organization.
Oh. No, please tell us about that distinction.
Okay, so the World Bank and the UN are two distinct intergovernmental organizations. Whereas the UN mostly deals with policies and legislature, the World Bank's main goal is to deal with trade, loans. Basically, this trust fund system that we see with Palestinians is not unique to them, but basically the World Bank's goal is to essentially be the world's bank.
Okay, so it's the World Bank is not the bank of the UN. It's its own intergovernmental organization.
Yes, and they do cooperate from time to time. The UN has stakes within the World Bank, and the World Bank does have a certain amount of pull within the UN, but they are two distinct organizations.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes complete sense. Thank you for clarifying. So, you've explained to us what the problem was. It was being used to fund terrorism, and you've explained to us now that they're going to be stopped giving to the World Bank, but does that mean that they're going to stop giving money completely to the to the Palestinians, or are they going to find an alternative means in order to get the money there?
So Julie Bishop actually came out with a statement that I'm just going to read out. The Australian government remains committed to supporting vulnerable Palestinians with access to basic services, including healthcare, food, water, improved sanitation, and shelter. We will now direct our $10 million allocation to the United Nations Humanitarian Fund for the Palestinian territories which support these services.
Awesome. Okay, so what is the United Nations Humanitarian Fund for the Palestinian people, or whatever the title for that is? Exactly, do you have any information on that you'd like to tell us about? Because I've never heard of that organization before.
So it is similar to the World Bank in the sense that it is a fund. It is a fund that is through the UN channel instead of the World Bank, and its goal is, as Julie Bishop stated, to sort of help in supplying basic infrastructure to the Palestinians: food, water, healthcare, basic essentials. And basically, it is done through the UN instead of the World Bank.
Okay. What is the I guess you're looking at pros and cons here. Before we talk about cons, can you tell us the pros about how putting it through this fund would be better than the World Bank?
Well, for one thing, because it's done through the UN, which has essentially staff which can be stationed in the Palestinian territories, it sort of allows a better knowledge of where this money is actually going towards, because the UN supplying it.
Right.
Whereas with the World Bank, it is basically just a report that comes from the Palestinian Authority.
So it's a better check to make sure that money's not being used for terror, it's being used for actual humanitarian relief.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But is there any cons to this? Is Australia kind of being begrudgingly having to put money into this fund? Are there any cons to it?
Well, I think a drawback to this decision is essentially looking at sort of a short-term versus long-term outcome. Now, the biggest benefit to the World Bank structure is that it doesn't it has a more step back sort of approach. What I mean by that is that basically the World Bank sort of gives the money to the Palestinians to sort of expand their economy.
Right.
They expect the Palestinian Authority sort of uses the money to build up their own infrastructure, to build up their own economy, and a sort of boost in a way.
So it's the Palestinian government taking money and doing things for themselves instead of metaphorically having their hands held while doing these things.
Essentially.
Okay.
And now that the money is going towards the UN, the Australians are sort of taking this approach of, okay, seems like you guys need a little bit more guidance than simply just good faith in a way. Obviously, the World Bank does have close monitorization. That's why Australia decided to pull out. But essentially, the UN has more of a presence when this is going on, which means that it sort of takes away from Palestinian autonomy and instead kind of has this more of a reliance, for lack of a better word, on the UN. Now, you could say that this is either a step forward or a step back for the Palestinians, but either way, it drastically changes how the UN is approaching their aid to the Palestinians.
How so exactly? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it basically shows that Australia no longer believes that simply giving the money to the World Bank Trust Fund will make sure that it's getting to where they want. Because they do not want to be funding Palestinian terrorists. What they want is to help.
Man, thanks. That's great to hear. I was really concerned that Australia wanted to fund terror in the Middle East. But thank you for clearing that up, though.
Well, Australia has always been committed to helping basically people who are in need, which much to their credit. And this new approach sort of is making sure that it is getting to where it needs to go, which is basically innocent Palestinians who just need some basic commodities.
Right.
But unfortunately, that has to be done sort of directly and can't be done through the Palestinian Authority, as they've proven that they are not as honest with the World Bank as they should be.
Terrorists not being honest with the World Bank? I mean, that's a shocker right there. I really thought that terrorists were stand-up people. So...
Well, sometimes the world surprises you.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I think that's just about it for today, Mr. Hanau. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there any other place if we want more information on this that we can go and find?
Well, you can always check out the Jerusalem Institute of Justice YouTube channel as well as our website for more info on what we do here and more on the topics at hand.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Hanau. I'm going to give you updates if we find out any more about Australia, but until then, my name is Jared White, and this is J News. Hey there! I hope you liked this video. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Jerusalem Institute of Justice to get more videos like this. Make sure to hit that subscription button and hit the little notifying bell to be notified of upcoming videos. Also, follow us on Twitter at JIJ_Israel. And of course, go onto our website at jij.org to read other articles and other things that we post. Comments, feedback, fatwas, they're all appreciative here, so let us know what you think in the comment section of wherever you are on the internet. So, my name is Jared White, this is J News.